There are places in this world that carry a dark weight, a presence that defies any logical explanation. You feel it before you even see it. The air seems thicker, the silence heavier. And if you're bold enough to proceed, that's when the whispers begin. Today I'll tell you about one such place. A place many wish to forget, but none can. A place known as the Casa dos Susurros. Imagine an old mansion, isolated in the middle of a forgotten road, surrounded by a forest that seems forever set in twilight. The tree branches intertwine over the path, blocking nearly all sunlight. The wind passes through here strangely, as if carrying whispered messages no one can understand. A sound that lingers in your mind, even after you've left. The house was built in the late 19th century, with Gothic architecture that makes it look more like a tomb than a residence. Since then, few have dared to call it home. Some families have lived there, but never for long. Unexplained tragedies always followed those who entered. Disappearances, brutal deaths, and stories that still chill the residents of the nearby town. There's no doubt, the house is alive. At least, that's what everyone believes. The most famous story about the Casa dos Susurros happened a few years ago, with Jonathan Reed, a paranormal investigator who decided to spend an entire night inside the mansion. Jonathan was a skeptic. To him, the whispers, disappearances, and deaths were just a mixture of coincidences and fertile imagination. Armed with a camera, audio recorders, and motion sensors, he entered the house. His final footage became famous, even though he himself was never seen again. The video begins with him walking through dusty corridors, describing the objects he finds. Antique furniture covered in sheets, cracked paintings on the walls. He chuckles softly as he says,
"If there's anyone here, give me a sign."
He didn't know the house would take that seriously. During the early morning hours, the motion sensors recorded several peculiarities. Shadows appearing and disappearing, doors opening on their own, footsteps echoing in empty rooms, until the whispers began. The footage ends abruptly, but the equipment was found the next day by other curious individuals who entered the house. Among the audio recordings, one specific segment stands out. Amidst the static, voices emerge. First, just one murmuring something almost imperceptible. Then, several. Some sounded childish, others distorted, inhuman. And they all said one thing in common: Jonathan's name repeated slowly, as if they were calling for him. He was never seen again. But Jonathan wasn't the first to disappear in the Casa dos Susurros. There are even older records that speak of the mansion's first inhabitants, the Vasquez family. The last official resident was Eleanor Vasquez, and she left a diary. She seems to be the only survivor who documented the horrors of the house. What is written in that diary is disturbing. In the first pages, Eleanor describes small, almost harmless things, objects that moved on their own, the sound of footsteps when she was alone, the constant feeling of being watched. But as the days passed, the entries became more erratic, more frantic. She described shadows crawling across the ceiling of her room, and the whispers. Each night they grew louder, closer. On the last page, her handwriting was shaky, as if written in panic. All it said was, "It's not the house that's haunted, it's us." Eleanor disappeared that very night. The police investigated, but they couldn't find any trace of her. The house was locked, no signs of forced entry, no signs of struggle. Only the diary remained, a sinister reminder of what had happened. Some believe Eleanor fled, but there are those who argue she was consumed by the house, that now she is part of the whispers. Since then, the house has attracted daring explorers and reckless curiosity seekers. Some return to tell their stories, but many leave changed. There's a pattern no one can ignore. The closer you get to the house, the more it seems to call you. Some people who spent too much time staring at the windows swear they began to hear whispers alone, even days later. They couldn't explain where they came from, but there was a chilling certainty. It was the house, trying to reach across the distance. Many say the whispers are a warning, but some have a more unsettling theory. They're not warning you, they're calling you. And then there are the dreams. Reports indicate that people who spend too much time near the house begin to have nightmares. The house appears empty and silent, but you feel something watching you, and when you wake, always at 3 in the morning, the room feels colder, as if you are no longer alone. Recently, a group of urban explorers attempted to film a video inside the house. They thought it was all nonsense, stories told to scare children. They spent hours filming, laughing at every strange sound they heard. But when they returned to watch the video, a discovery chilled them to the bone. At several moments, there was a silhouette behind them, still, standing in the darkness, something no one saw at the time. The video was posted online, but it disappeared mysteriously just a few days later. Some members of the group reported that they began to hear whispers in their own homes in the dead of night. One of them disappeared weeks later without explanation. And just when you think you've heard all the stories, something new always emerges. Residents of the nearby town claim that, from time to time, they see figures in the windows of the house. The most unsettling part? Some of these people swear they've seen a woman staring directly at the road, standing there motionless as if waiting for something, Eleanor or what remains of her. Some theories suggest that the house is more than just haunted, that it is a kind of portal. Those who enter and disappear do not die, but become part of its endless cycle of horrors, part of the whispers. But the most terrifying, you don't need to be inside the house to feel it. You don't need a video or a visit to those dark windows. You only need to hear about it, think about it. Because they say, the Casa dos Susurros knows when it's remembered. And perhaps, as you listen to this story, if you pay close attention to the silence around you, you might hear it too, something low, distant, calling your name. And if the whispers stop, perhaps it's because they are already too close. Good luck.